Game 2 on Tuesday in L.A., and let's bring in the radio voice of the Mavericks, Chuck Cooperstein, here on Living Room Sports to talk about Game 1. And let's start with Kawhi's dunk there in the third quarter, Chuck, because I thought at the time that might be a turning point in the game, and I think looking back it may have been a turning point in the game. Positive for the Mavericks, the way they responded to that as a team. What do you think?
Why are you doing Maxey wrong? Why are you doing him wrong like that? I tell you what, for a team that lost the game, that got more highlight play on the highlight shows, yours and nationally, than a lot of what happened in the course of the game. I didn't really think of it that way, just because I thought the Mavericks were playing so well all the way through this game, and were doing things that they wanted to. Rick Carlisle always talks about hitting first, and that basically means being the aggressor. Play your game. Make them play your game. And the Mavericks really did that throughout. Yeah, the Clippers had a little run there in the second quarter, got a 4-point lead, but then the Mavericks took control of the game, and then the Clippers had I guess they had a 3-point lead in the fourth quarter. But I must tell you that seeing how that game was being played, it just didn't seem like the Mavericks were going to lose that game. They just were playing too well.
Yep, and I guess I was specifically talking about the two possessions after that. After the timeout, Jalen Brunson and Dorian Finney-Smith attacking the basket. And then, as you're pointing out, in the fourth quarter, the Clippers got hot with Paul George making a couple of threes, Rondo as well. Mavericks were down by 3, and then they closed it out on an 18-5 run, and it was so huge.
Yeah, and listen, probably the biggest exchange was, Tim Hardaway taking the charge, and the Clippers trying to challenge it, and they lost the challenge. And then Hardaway comes down at the other end, knocks down a 3. And, that's kind of how he's been all year. He's top 10 in the league in taking charges. His three-point shooting is certainly of late, but really most of this season has been impeccable, just under 40% from behind the three-point line. And, everybody wants to talk about Luka, and that's all well and good, and he deserves everything that is said about him that's great, because he is great. And there's a lot of hand-wringing, it seems like, over Kristaps Porzingis, one way or the other. But Tim Hardaway and Jalen Brunson have been so important to this team, and Dorian Finney-Smith and his ability to knock down threes and becoming a legitimate three-point shooter over the last couple of years, and especially so this year. The Mavericks just had a lot of things going right that the Clippers now are going to have a couple of days to try to figure out how to counter.
Where do you see Kristaps Porzingis at right now? The whole key this season was to get him ready to where he's as healthy as he can be leading into the postseason. Wasn't hitting his shot in Game 1, but how big is it just to have Porzingis out there? Well, it's huge, because you've got Kawhi Leonard, who's a great defender, playing Porzingis, and you're keeping Kawhi Leonard basically 20 feet from the basket or 25 feet from the basket, because you have to respect Porzingis' ability to shoot the ball. And yeah, Porzingis didn't shoot it well in Game 1, but in the 3 games that he played prior to his return, he did play well, and he did shoot the ball well, right around 50%. And the Clippers, this is one of the few times that the Clippers really have been able to get a handle on Porzingis. And because in the playoffs last year, until he left in Game 4, they did not have any clue in how to deal with him. And if you're the Mavericks, I think that's where you're the most excited, because you know that Porzingis is not going to have too many more games like that. And you do have the other guys in the supporting cast around Luka helping him out, making sure that he doesn't feel like he's got to do everything in order for them to win. What adjustments do you anticipate the Clippers making for Game 2 on Tuesday night?
Well, I've always been a fan of Zubats, and, he only played 19 minutes in Game 1, and Zubats has always hurt the Mavericks, and he hurt the Mavericks early in Game 1 with his offensive rebounding, his ability to be big in the middle, catch the ball, dunk it. I would be surprised if he did not play more, just because he's had that level of success. I would imagine that we'll see even more double teaming of Luka and daring Luka to trust his teammates enough that they will make the right plays again. You know, I think they're willing to live with the idea of Luka always scoring 1 point in the fourth quarter. And see if Hardaway and Brunson and Finney-Smith can beat them. The thing is, Brunson's been a great fourth quarter scorer all year long, and obviously Finney-Smith and Hardaway have shot the threes out of sight over the last couple of months, and that's a really dangerous way to play. But I think that's something that we will probably see more of. But I think from a lineup standpoint, I think Zubac would probably be the way that they would change up and not try to play so small, because one thing also that happened in that game, and what's really happened for the Mavericks over the last 2 months, is that their offensive rebounding has improved dramatically. You know, they're kind of at the bottom of the league right now. I mean, if you look at the overall year standings, they're like 26th in offensive rebounding and 26th in second chance points. But over the last 6 weeks of the season, they were 8th in the NBA in offensive rebounding. They were 2nd in second chance points. And they had 10 offensive rebounds for 19 second chance points in game one. And I think Zubac might alleviate some of that if Ty Lue elects to play him more. But he may not want to do that. And isn't that the beauty of the playoffs? Because you know there are going to be adjustments. You know the Mavericks are going to make some adjustments too.
Coop, can you believe it's almost been 10 years now since the Mavericks scaled the NBA playoff mountain and planted their flag?
It's been a really long time. Listen, it's been a long time, even before then, since they won game one of a playoff series. You know, they had lost 6 straight. It's been since 2014 since they've actually had a lead at any time in a playoff series. It's been a long drought. But game one, I think, has given everyone around town, and certainly the team, real excitement and belief that what they thought might be able to happen last year before they got worn down in the series with the Clippers can actually happen this time around.
How determined do you sense that this team is to get over that hump and win a playoff series and get this franchise on the roll that it enjoyed basically for a decade leading up to an NBA championship 10 years ago?
I think they're very determined. And listen, you know, you look at a guy like Doncic, he hasn't lost very much in his life. You know, he's done an awful lot of winning in his life. So, you know, in the first year with the Mavericks, he wins 33 games. They don't make the playoffs. They win a few more games the next year. They win 10 more, and they get to the first round of the playoffs. And obviously, he hits an iconic shot. But ultimately, they didn't win. He's not used to that. And I don't think he's in the business of spending too much time of not winning. So I think there is a real determination for these guys, even if they don't have all that much playoff experience themselves, to be able to make that point that these aren't the same old Mavericks. It is a new time, and this team has the capability of doing some real damage. And, you know, when you look at how the season has played out, the Mavericks seem to play their best basketball against the better teams. Well, you get to the playoffs, and all you're doing is playing better teams. So I think they feel real confident about where they are right now and what they're capable of.
And finally, when you look at the Western Conference, these playoff teams, it's anybody's guess, don't you think, who's going to emerge?
Bill, this is the most wide open it has ever been. I mean, seriously, from 1 to 8. And granted, we've had some years. The Mavericks lost to Golden State when the Warriors were in 8. And Memphis knocked off San Antonio in 2011 when they were in 8. But they didn't have the firepower ultimately to be able to carry it through. But you look at how Memphis has played at the end of the year. You look at the toughness they showed in that game against Golden State in the play-in game just to get in the playoffs, and how they played at the end of the year. They're the 8th seed, okay? They're the ones who should be getting summarily dismissed here, and that's not going to happen against Utah. They may lose to Utah, but they're going to press Utah, and that's true of every series that's going to happen. I'll be very, very surprised, frankly, if all of these series don't go at least 6 games, and maybe 2 or 3 of them going to a 7th game.
And how great will it be to have at least 12,000, maybe 15,000 fans at the AAC for these playoff games?
You know, I was watching the Phoenix Lakers game today, and that place was nuts in Phoenix. And, hey, you know, they're even hungrier than the Mavericks are. They haven't even been to the playoffs since 2010. So, I mean, can you imagine that feeling? And now you see what's going to happen here on Friday night. And, you know, we'll see just how many wind up in the building. But
I'm thinking that it might be the loudest that we've heard this building since Vince Carter hit that shot in 2014 in Game 3. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be fun. And especially because these teams played in the playoffs last year, and there's good fan animosity that's been built up over that time.
All right, Chuck. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Hey, Bill. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.